Welcome to the Insomnia Project. Sit back, relax, and listen as we have a calm conversation that's meant to have you drift off, relax, chill, cool it out, and who knows, maybe even find your way to sleep. Thank you for choosing our podcast to help you there. I'm your host, Marco Timpano.
I'm Amanda Barker.
Amanda, so you and I have had quite a weekend, and we chilled so much that now we're tired from chilling.
Yeah, there's a very famous Canadian song called Home for a Rest, and that's kind of how we feel. Although, really we were just chilling out, but I don't know, we both seem a little bit zonked. I think part of it is we didn't do our normal, clean the house before we leave thing because we just wanted to leave.
Yeah.
Which served us on the front end, but not as much on the back end.
Right.
So I kind of feel as though we came home and there was a lot of cleaning I wanted to do, and now I didn't do it all. So.
And now you're a little bit behind. Mm-hmm. And I can help with the cleaning tomorrow. I was at work this morning, but before we get to any of that, we actually got to attend a field function. What would you call that event that we went to? I
mean, I like that term. I don't think that's what it was called. It was called the Georgian Bay Festival.
Right. And so the Georgian...
a function in a field. It was very hot.
It was very hot, and they basically set this up in a farmer's field, and they set up a bunch of different booths representing different programs in the Georgian Bay area, different
I think so, yeah. It was a
owners.
fair.
It was a fair.
It was a fair. So there was some blow-up slides and things for kids.
Our friend had a magic show. Well, not a show.
Actually, they should have had him doing a show.
He was doing shows.
Like shows at the booth.
At the booth, but you could either purchase magic props or book him for Magic Festival.
Has he been a guest on this show?
No, I've asked, and I'm gonna continue to ask till I get him to be a guest. So
he is a magician, obviously, and he does birthday parties and camps and virtual parties and things like that.
And performances too. We saw him perform. He's fantastic. Yeah. But we'll get to that in a moment.
Very good magician, actually.
And then you bought at this Georgian Bay Festival.
I did.
You bought some
Beeswax Wraps.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I was going to talk about it, or I would have had the company in front of me, but her name was Pam Green, and she was very nice, from Collingwood, Ontario, and she had some beeswax wraps. Now, I have a history with beeswax wraps. I suppose we should talk about what they are, though.
For sure, you should talk about what they are.
So, a beeswax wrap, for those who are not in the beeswax wrap community.
I didn't realize there was a community of beeswax wrappers.
Now.
Okay.
I'm sure there is. It's one of the wonderful sort of byproduct things that people have been making with bee and honey and wax products. But essentially what they are is they're cloth that have been coated in wax and I guess also a type of resin. And they are malleable, so you can use them to, instead of saran wrap, or what the Brits would call cling film, that kind of thing.
Tin foil.
Yeah, any disposable product that you would use to preserve food, or to put on the top of a cake or a casserole or whatever. You can use this, and it's just cloth, all natural materials, and then you can simply hand wash it and reuse it again. And it has, now, here's my history.
Now, when you say it's cloth, it's actually waxed cloth. Mm-hmm. So it's a stiff cloth. So it's not like, a scarf you could wrap around your neck. It's a stiff cloth that goes over the item that you're going to cover.
Exactly. So I had bought, or actually I had gotten some in a trade. They were brand new. I think they were homemade. And I had traded something for them. And I was really excited to get them. The ones I have, but they never really worked particularly well. So I kind of thought, I don't know if these are worth the hype. And then she was selling some, and hers, on the display looked like they were working very well. So she showed me a few tricks on how to use them And I definitely think hers are a superior product. And so far, I'm very happy with my new purchase.
Well, you mentioned the tricks that she showed you. I think you should share that with our listeners for anyone who has the Beeswax Wraps.
So when you get one, you have to give it a good stretch, I guess, to sort of get it used to or activate the stretchy molecules, I guess. I'm not a scientist.
And stretch on the diagonal.
Yeah.
So you would
give it a good
stretch
tug
on the 2 points.
Yeah, so she did that and said once you kind of stretch it a bit, you kind of train it that it's going to do that, and then you can wrap it around, and that did work. So I was really grateful for that, and so far so good. You can't heat them up. I thought you could, but I guess that means all the wax and the resin drips off, so you don't want them too hot. But I thought the key was to heat them up to kind of form them. But if they're good, you shouldn't have to, I guess.
I see.
Yeah.
One of the interesting things that I learned from the product that you purchased was that once you're done with them, once they've lived their life, you can bury them and they will disintegrate. Or if you start fires, if you have like a fire pit or a barbecue or say a fireplace, you can ignite that as a starter for your fireplace.
That part I get behind because it's probably all cotton fiber and then covered in wax, so that checks out to me. But I don't know about the berry.
Yeah, that's what it said on the...
Really?
Yeah, I read it.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, in any event, yeah, I mean, I would think it would be the same as you would get rid of any fabric, which is to say, that it would hopefully disintegrate.
I think this one here is all natural. I'm pretty certain I read that.
I would think it would be, yeah. I think they're all cotton, yeah.
Yeah. And we also ran into 3 wonderful individuals at the Georgian Bay Festival, and they represent the Southern Georgian Bay Airboat Rescue. So they're trying to get airboats for the Georgian Bay area to help.
An airboat, I believe.
An airboat. An airboat. I can't even say it.
An airboat. Say it.
An airboat.
5 times fast.
It's almost
airboat.
like a tongue twister. So they're trying to get an airboat for safety on Georgian Bay, and they're raising funds for it, and they were very lovely. We met Kevin, Chrissy,
and Bree, I believe. Yeah.
And they were fantastic.
They were a very fun trio, and we were excited to meet them. They were excited about this podcast, which was always fun to connect. And, we've talked about Georgian Bay quite a bit on this podcast, but for those who don't know the area, it is, and there is some debate in this relationship, but it is part of Lake Huron, obviously one of the Great Lakes. And it's the northernmost Great Lake, right? Lake Huron?
No.
Okay.
Lake Superior is the
most. Because that's the one Thunder Bay is on, right? And Lake Superior is the biggest Great Lake?
I believe so. That's why it's Superior.
Hence the name?
Yeah.
Well, this is the Huronest. I don't know. Anyway, it's part of Lake Huron, but it's its own little part of Lake Huron. It kind of connects to it. I mean, it does connect to it. And it's its own bay. So Georgian Bay, there's a lot of homes and cottages. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous part of Canada. And we were lucky enough to spend a lot of time up there. Not as much as we always want to, but we were lucky enough to spend the last few days there and to attend this festival.
And the Tay Township, which is one of the townships in Georgian Bay, has sort of granted these volunteers the ability to raise funds to get an airboat.
So what they were telling us, what Chrissy and Kevin and Bree were telling us, was that there isn't one up there. They don't have access to an airboat, and that's really needed on the lake when people need an airboat, for all the things you can imagine.
Right, of course.
Obviously, any calls or...
Sure. And so they're raising funds, and I said I would mention it on our podcast. So you could go to www.sgbearboatrescue.com, and I'll have it in our show notes. And if you want to donate to them, I'm sure they would appreciate it. But they're making that waterway safer, that bay safer. So Thank you to them.
Yeah. I just like the idea of a cause that has such a tangible goal, where they're really going to help probably save a lot of lives and help a lot of people who need it up there. So, yeah.
And you love being on a boat, Amanda, whether it be
I do.
A pontoon or a
Cruise ship. I lived on some, yeah.
A houseboat.
Is something I want to live on.
You were feeling a little sad not too long ago, so we went for a drive to look at houseboats.
We did.
And
there's a little houseboat community in Toronto of 24 houseboats. That's all that they've given the ordinance to have. I don't think there'll ever be any more. And so it's a tiny little community in Scarborough, the eastern part of Toronto, right on the water on Lake Ontario.
Another one of the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm. And there's I kind of spy when the boats go for sale and check and see if anyone's bought them. And there's 2 boats that have been for sale, and both of those sales have been terminated. Nobody bought them.
And so Amanda has her eye on those boats.
There's one in particular that's very charming, but it's quite small. I don't think it would be quite a downsize for you and I. However, it would be possible. I don't know all the rules. I think it would be quite hard to live in a houseboat in the middle of January, but not impossible. They do.
It's a shame that we don't have more houseboats, because in the UK, there's a lot of houseboats one can purchase or make and have a home on the water. And I think that's lovely.
It's, like I said, it's a dream of mine. But, I like a well-appointed cozy space. I'm also very into bunkies, which are little cabins that people build on their land. And they're like little tiny homes. And everyone knows I love myself a tiny home. And of course, houses and vans are a big pastime of mine. This is what I look at when I want to relax. I build a little bunkie in my brain, or a van, or what my ideal houseboat would be like.
And what do I do when I want to relax?
Eat chocolate? I don't know.
Oh, for sure.
No, what do you do?
I don't know. That's a good question. I have to sort of...
You like British TV?
I love British TV. Love it. But I think when I want to relax, I tend to either scroll Instagram.
I don't think that is relaxing.
No, you're right. But that's what I do.
Yeah, well, I think that's what all of us do, right?
I don't know what I do.
For me, I don't really scroll Instagram, but I do scroll Facebook, and I think it's all more or less the same.
Fair enough.
Really, for what it does to your brain or stimulates or whatever.
I like to watch shows, predictable shows. That's what I do to relax. I watch very predictable shows.
Reruns of things. I love a rerun of MASH and things like that. Things that I know what's going to happen and just kind of can pay attention to or drift off. That's one of my go-tos, I think. Yeah. I don't find MASH relaxing at all, although I think it is more than decent. It was obviously a landmark show. Hey, we missed the Emmys, by the way.
I know. It was the other day, and we were going to watch them, and then we didn't.
I didn't get as much done as I wanted to today, but I was able to cook dinner. However, I ended up with a bit of a battle wound. And
Amanda had a little slight burn on her arm.
A little water burn, so it wasn't so bad, but I'm just icing it. I might just take a moment here and put a little ice on it. So stand by. Much better.
I'm glad, if there's one lesson to learn from Amanda's little mishap in the kitchen, it's when you're pouring hot water, never pour towards yourself, right,
Yeah,
Amanda?
and I know that too, and I don't know. I was making a gravy and using a bit of the water that I had boiled potatoes in to thicken the gravy.
Starchy water,
yeah. I was not trying to use too much, but I had a secure lid on the pot that I was pouring from, and it has a little spout. So, but anyways, I poured it in my direction. I should have poured it away. So live and learn.
What a great name for a band, Starchy Water.
Starchy Water?
Starchy Water.
I feel like they were great in the 70s.
Yeah, we're going to a Starchy Waters concert tonight.
Yeah.
We drove in some fog at night.
Coming back from Georgian Bay.
Coming back from Georgian Bay. And it's kind of soothing and mysterious when you're driving through that kind of fog. And that can be relaxing too, picturing yourself driving through country roads, foggy roads, and
Fog is lovely, especially this time of year, like fog and a tea. It's kind of a lovely thing, isn't it?
oh, of course. Have you ever been on a gondola or something that's going up?
I've never been on a gondola, I don't think.
Well, a gondola is like not a gondola like in Venice, but I'm talking about a gondola. Although I think I've been on a gondola in Venice in the morning when there was fog.
That's hilarious.
So it's possible. But I was picturing those gondolas that take you up mountains, like the one we were in in Banff.
Funicular.
Yeah, those.
Yeah.
Going through fog or through the clouds. Have you ever done that?
I have. I'll tell you, when I was in Hong Kong, I went to Lantau Island and saw the huge Buddha there. I mean, that's what Lantau Island is basically a monastery with this huge Buddha. And it is so big that often when you look up at it, you can't see the head.
Oh, I see.
Because it's in the clouds.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, because it's pretty cloudy. It can be cloudy there. And so the day that I went, we couldn't see the head when we first got there, but you can, do we climb up? I don't know if you climb up to see the head. I don't know how we did that. But anyway, I think we do, though. I think it's like behind it on the mountain or whatever. And it was a very long time ago that I went. And it eventually lifted, but it's quite heavenly, the statue, like when the face starts peeking through the clouds. It's quite something.
Speaking of fog and transportation, so remember when I was just talking about being on a gondola in fog? Mm-hmm. Well, I used to be a tour guide in Europe, in Italy in particular, and it was on bicycles, and hence why I was in these different cities. But one of the areas that I was a tour guide in is Piemonte, which is the northwest part of Italy. And if you know the city of Torino, it's in that area. Mm-hmm. But the reason I bring it up, Amanda, is we would be doing cycling tours.
Right.
And we would cycle in the morning. And the areas of Piemonte that we were cycling through are known for, as you might imagine, their vineyards and their wines. So there's a wine that comes from that area. And the grape, the reason that area is so prized is they have a grape that grows there called a Nebbiolo. And Nebbiolo, nebbia means fog and mist and clouds. Like
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Nebbia means I believe fog, yes. And so and because of the foggy, wet, moist air, it really feeds these grapes, right? And hence they grow in that area. And you get wines like Barolo, Barbaresco, Barbera from that area. But I'm digressing right now.
No, but I'm enjoying it. I want to learn more about wines.
But the point of my story is not about wine. It's about fog. Mm-hmm. So when we would do these tours, we would get up early in the morning. I would get all the bicycles ready for our guests. Mm-hmm. They would hop on the bikes, and we would ride our bikes through various vineyards.
Okay.
But in the early morning, it was very foggy.
Right.
So you would be driving through these foggy vineyards, and you would actually see the fog lift from the vineyards. And so you'd be riding through these misty, fog-laden vineyards, and you'd see the fog lift, Amanda, and it was quite a sight to see. Then the sun would come out, and you would see paragliders gliding from the top of a mountain. They would just be gliding past some of the... Yeah, it was really fantastic.
Would you ever do that? Would you go paragliding?
No, probably not. That's not for me.
I'd like to do that.
That's more your speed for sure.
My drive, I used to live on the St. John River in New Brunswick, as we know, and...
I have a feeling we're going to get to a foggy part of the story.
Well, we would drive along the river and along any river, really, in the morning, especially like a crisp sort of end of August morning because it starts to get cool there. Certainly in September, there would be quite a fog in the fall that would lift off the river. And especially in the fall with the foliage, all the bright reds and oranges and yellows as a backdrop to this gorgeous still river, and then this huge fog would be and you would just drive through the mist. It was amazing.
I remember one time I was on the Atlantic Ocean, actually in Halifax, and I was whale watching with a good friend, Leslie Seiler, who's been on the podcast, and her folks. And it was foggy. And you want to whale watch, but it was so foggy you could barely see a few feet in front of you. So we weren't really seeing whales. But it was really quite neat to be on the water in Halifax, and it was gray. And then all of a sudden, Leslie's father points and says, whale. And there's a whale right next to the boat. And the whale kind of comes up, and you can see the whale above the fog. You see the whale's eye, and the whale went back. Oh my gosh,
you saw the eye?
Yeah, I saw the eye.
Wow.
Close to the boat. And it was very majestic, and it was just wonderful. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
I would like to go whale watching. Is this why we've never been? Because you already went?
Yeah, I saw what I needed to see.
Although we did see whales at least once when we worked and lived on a cruise ship together. Right? Because we have a friend who we say has a whale eye.
That's right, Michelle Miracle, who's also been on the show. I'm just name dropping everyone who's been on the show.
I know, we do that sometimes.
But
anyway,
she has a whale eye.
There's just a normal day at sea, and she spotted some whales.
Yeah. And we say she has a whale eye, which she's not a big fan of us saying that. But instead of saying eagle eye, we now say you have a whale eye. Because if you can spot a whale on the ship, from the ship, you've got a great eye.
In the water, yeah.
I remember on that ship, we would come into Florida, and as we were coming into Florida, it was early in the morning. I would get up as we were getting right to the tip of Florida and traveling alongside Florida, and it would often be foggy. And that was my foggy experience on the boat.
We actually, when you work on water and live on water, you do experience quite a bit of fog. And I don't know if you remember some of the mornings coming in, because we were docked in New York City, and then coming into New York City with the Statue of Liberty kind of encased in fog.
Oh, that's
that
cool.
was really neat. Yeah.
And Bar Harbor, Maine was always foggy.
Oh, I don't think we went there once where it wasn't.
But that's kind of the charm of Maine, is a foggy day in Maine.
Absolutely.
With a wool sweater.
Yeah, for sure.
And a mug of coffee or tea.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing.
And a grilled cheese sandwich sizzling in the background.
Okay. I didn't see that one coming, but sure. I would have a lobster roll, not a grilled cheese sandwich, if I'm in Bar Harbor in this fantasy.
Sure.
I think we can dream bigger than grilled cheeses, can't we?
Yeah, of course we can. We need to stop talking about food.
Then again, we're talking Foggy Day food. I'm trying to think of...
I've been to the Foggy Dew pub many times.
The Foggy Dew. I guess fog does happen more with the dew. It's like a natural phenomenon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it sort of, sorry, that's my pen, lifts up. I've been doodling about fog as we've been talking.
Are you doodling pictures of fog?
I am, yeah, of like sort of foggy, like a foggy scene over a countryside. Because it's true, fog tends to be a country phenomenon, doesn't it?
I think country and water. Like whenever I think of lighthouses, I always picture them in foggy weather, right?
Because we don't really have fog in the city, but we do have smog.
True. And we don't really have lighthouses in this city.
Well, we have a couple, don't we?
I don't know, do we?
Didn't we? I thought we had a lighthouse in the city.
I don't think so.
No?
What city were we in when we kind of walked all the way to the end to see a lighthouse?
Oh.
It was in the States, and I feel like it was...
Tel Aviv?
No.
All those lighthouses of Tel Aviv? I don't think there are. I'm trying to think. We walked to the end of the city to see a lighthouse?
Like the end of a road that took us there. And it was just... We were in
the Scarborough Bluffs, and we were trying to... Oh, yeah, maybe Martha's Vineyard. That's possible, because we went to the very end tips of Martha's Vineyard. I think there was a lighthouse at the tip, so we really wanted to get there and see it. It was always my dream to live in a lighthouse, a la Pete's Dragon. They lived in the lighthouse in Pete's Dragon. So I've always wanted to live in a lighthouse. I'll put that on with the houseboat and the tiny home and the bunkie in the van. I would also like to live in a lighthouse.
Wow, you want to live in a lot of places.
I do. A girl can dream.
Sure, there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes when you dream in fog. This has been the Foggy episode. I mean, I didn't think it was going to go there, but that's where we went. Once again, we will put the website for that airboat in case you want more information with regards
Which
to
will
that.
be very helpful if you're out on Georgian Bay and the fog comes in quick on Georgian Bay. That's the thing about fog. It comes in quick.
It sure does. And it can go as quick.
Yeah, you'll be completely encased in it and then it could dissipate in the next second. You never know.
And my thing about Georgian Bay, this is why we often get into a debate, is I think Georgian Bay sits on its own. It doesn't have to be referenced to Huron Lake, or Lake Huron, I should say.
But
Because you don't...
maintained it wasn't part of Lake Huron. You were like, no, it's not Lake Huron, it's Georgian Bay.
Yeah, because we just refer to it as Georgian Bay.
But now you're saying it doesn't need to be referenced.
Yeah,
to
because
Georgian Bay.
the Gulf of Mexico, one doesn't say the Pacific Ocean. You just say the Gulf of Mexico.
Is in the Pacific Ocean.
But when you talk about the Gulf of Mexico, you talk about it as the Gulf of Mexico.
But I don't even think you believed it was in Lake Huron for a long time. You
It's
were
not-
like, no, it's not part of Lake Huron.
It's not in Lake Huron. It is a tributary from Lake Huron.
But Lake Huron
feeds into it.
No, it's part of Lake Huron. When you draw Lake Huron on a map, I don't know how relaxing this is, Marco. This is our longest debate, by the way, folks, in our marriage. When you draw Lake Huron on a map, Georgian Bay is part of it. It is part of Lake Huron. It is
But
part of the Great Lakes.
My feeling is, since you refer to the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of Mexico, you refer to the Georgian Bay as Georgian Bay.
So when you get shrimp from the Gulf of Mexico,
Tasty.
what type of shrimp are those?
Gulf of Mexico shrimp.
They're not Pacific shrimp or Atlantic shrimp?
No, they're Gulf of Mexico shrimp.
Did I say Gulf of Mexico was part of the Pacific earlier?
It is, isn't it?
No, it's part of the Atlantic.
No, I think it's the Pacific.
Oh, no.
Amanda's going to have to look
Tomato,
this up.
tomato.
No, it's not tomato. They're two different oceans. I don't think...
No, we're not supposed to laugh, Marco.
Sorry.
Especially not at the end. No, it is totally part of the Atlantic. But I think you said Pacific.
Oh, did I say Pacific?
Yeah, or I did.
No, I must have said it.
Well, anyways, it's not. It's part of the Atlantic. But in your mind, it's part of its own thing. It's the Gulf of Mexico.
Exactly.
So there you go. Bodies of water debate.
Well, maybe my brain was a bit foggy there. So on that note, I think, yes, it is definitely part of the Atlantic. So I'm sorry I got that wrong. I think it's best to leave the episode there, Amanda. Thank you so much for being a part of it today. Thank you for everyone who listened. And of course, we hope you were able to listen and sleep.